Okay, let's then raise once again the big questions. All acquitted in the Malegaon blast. Did no one blast Malegaon? 6 dead, 100 injured, no one guilty. Last week it was the 7/11 Mumbai train blast. Now Malegaon. Why are terror cases falling apart? That's the real question to ask. Yashovardhan Azad, former IPS officer, joins me. Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate at the Supreme Court, joins me. And Ranjit Sangre, accused Sudhakar Thardvivedi's lawyer, joins me. Viral Babbar, an accused for Colonel Purohit's lawyer, is someone I spoke to earlier. And I just want to play the one question I asked Viral Babbar, because he was appearing for Colonel Purohit, one of the lawyers for Colonel Purohit. Viral, the court today said that mere suspicion is not enough to convict anyone. You need in a criminal case to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they were involved in the crime. How do you see the court judgment? Is it a complete exoneration really? Or was it that there was simply not enough evidence in the end and that's why your client was let off?
One thing regarding the judgments, we currently anybody don't have the copy of the judgment, so we don't know what are the observations made by the court and the judgment in particularly that sense. But I can strongly say two, three things is that even if, as in the earlier you said, that as the criminal trial prolong, all these things certainly don't stand off. But even if this would have taken it much earlier in the initial years of trial also, the fate would have been the same. Why? Because the investigation done by both the agency was motivated on wrong purposes and it was a biased investigation carried out. Not just that, certain statements of star witnesses were taken at behest of torturing them, and when this star witnesses on whom the prosecution relied the most completely failed. In fact, they informed the court how they were tortured, illegally detained, and that is how statements were recorded from them.
Okay, let's widen this then to the role of the prosecution in these cases. Police in particular, I want to first focus on. And Yashovardhan Azad, why don't you dive into that? Because the fact is, whether it was Mumbai last week where the police role was seen to be incompetent in the manner in which they handled procedures, to today, where suddenly there are serious questions that many are asking also about the way the NIA handled the case, especially post-2015, once there was a new government in power. Are our top investigating agencies driven by politics? You hear lawyers calling it a biased investigation in the first instance while the UPA was in power, and then a deliberate botch-up when the NDA came to power. Where does the truth lie?
The truth lies in the fact that if you put the investigative agencies away from the clutches of the politicians, you will never have any problem and you will never doubt their credibility, especially in cases like terror, especially in cases which relate to any kind of a politician or any political activity. I am absolutely horrified by both these judgments for the simple reason, in this particular case, there were so many twists and turns that I can imagine why NIA or any agencies in the world cannot give you any kind of a result. It is quite obvious that in 2016 itself, the whole investigation had turned on its head.
It turned when the government turned, Mr. Azad. So are you telling me that the police will tailor an investigation depending on who is in power? That when the UPA was in power, they went in a particular direction. NDA comes to power, they go in a completely different direction.
That's exactly the whole problem, Rajdeep, and that's exactly what I was trying to convince you and convince your viewers, that today the NIA, it went one way during a particular year because the ATS which was investigating went in a different direction from the earlier, which was Hemant Karkare. And after that, the NIA did not even want to oppose the bail plea of Pragya Sadhvi and wanted in a supplementary charge sheet to take her name away. And in fact, it was the court which insisted, and that's how the name was still there. Ask Sanjay Hegde, he will tell you the details.
Let me take that to Sanjay Hegde. Sanjay Hegde, that, is this therefore a miscarriage of justice? You've got those who are today adherents of the government of the day saying, look, the Hindu terror bogey has been punctured of the Congress government. On the other hand, you've got those who've said the moment the BJP has come into power, all the right-wing Hindu groups are being let off.
Listen, let's
What does
just
it
take
say about our criminal prosecution?
No, both our systems of prosecution as well as our systems of bringing people to justice are failing, to put it mildly. Prosecutors are often led by the politicians of the day. You go and investigate this particular direction or go and investigate the other particular direction. Thereafter, they file a charge sheet and leave it to the courts. By the time the court process is over, you have a decade or two passing by. Delay is part of the defense tactics. And then ultimately the court comes to the conclusion that no, there is not enough evidence to convict. This is not the only case, nor was 2611 the other case. Please look at what happened in the 2G case, a civil case, where the judge says, I sat in my court day after day waiting for evidence. The evidence never came. Please look at the Babri Masjid demolition case, which dragged on for 30 years and ended with an acquittal for everyone. Our system seems to revel in dragging in as many people as possible, filing a catch-all charge sheet, and then flying blind by the seat of your pants in court for a very
But-
extended trial.
But
This is
but
where
thi-
the problem lies.
But this case goes well beyond that, Ranjit Sangle, because you will recall Rohini Salyan. She was the prosecutor for the for the NIA in this case, and she claimed that she was being asked to go soft on the accused, including weaken the case against Pragya Thakur. This was after the NDA came to power, and then you had a complete new team which was prosecuting the case. Did your client get off simply because governments changed or because there was no evidence? Because now I'm asking, did no one blast Malegaon? Did no one do these blasts?
No.
Ranjit
Rajdeep, that is not correct. What? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Rajdeep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yes. So when Rohini Salyan made that allegation, right, it might have been investigated in a different manner. We don't know what happened to that allegation. But the fact remains this: when you ask a question whether nobody blasted Malegaon, you are absolutely correct in asking that question. But the thing is this: let us not assume that the people who have been acquitted must have committed it, yet due to lack of evidence they are getting scot-free. No, that is not the case. For a sake of argument, let us assume, and we did this. Somebody really wise once said on camera, and I shared the screen, same screen, that the job of the defense is to pin holes of the size of the lunar crater, right, in the case of the prosecution. And you know who said that, right? Whilst that, we did just our job. And understand this, that the bike that was planted there, right, was the case of the prosecution was the RDX was kept inside the tank, and that the bike blasted. The tank was intact. The fuel on the oil was on the ground and it was burnt. So the case of the prosecution that the bike blasted is absolutely ridiculous. Okay. In fact, Judge Lahoti Sahib came to a conclusion that the probability of the blast having occurred outside the blast at a place which is surrounding the bike is much more in probability than the bike having blasted itself. Now, that is not a lacuna in the case of the investigation. It is a gross negligence and lacuna. And the benefit of that has to go to the accused. And if the law is taking its course, why to blame the accused? When the
No,
prosecuting
I'm not
agency
blaming
has
you as a
miserably
lawyer, sir.
failed
You have
to bring
you have
forth
every
credible
right,
evidence.
Mr. Sangre. You have every right to puncture holes in the case that has been made out by the prosecution. I only wonder that what kind of a legal system do we work in that the case moves from putting the accused in jail under UAPA to now today saying even UAPA charges are not made out, and suddenly every proof, whether who planted the bike bomb, who brought in the RDX, all of that is now being discounted completely, and then a complete. So, as I said,
I
no
will give
one
you one
blasted
more
Malegaon,
example there, Rajdeep. I will give you one more example.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Sangre.
Okay, if you know, the MCOCA invocation in this matter was done after registration of the case of the Malegaon bomb blast. Thereafter, within 24 hours, the Mumbai ATS gives instructions to Jalna, Jalgaon and Parbhani ATS officers, gets Rakesh Daude's name added in the FIRs there, gets charge sheet filed within 24 hours. From addition of that name without any investigation whatsoever. Simpliciter those charge sheets are filed, the legal requirement for invocation of MCOCA is complied there, and MCOCA is invoked in this matter. I mean, that is also ridiculous.
Yeah,
this is
MCOCA
clearly a
is,
case
of course,
false implication,
mcoca,
Rajdeep. Let us
which
be
is a
very fair here.
Okay.
Correct.
Yashovardhan Azad, at the end of the day, all of
And
these
therefore
points
the
to
entire
policing.
foundation for a
all,
false-
all of these points, I take your point, all of these points to policing. If we had a truly independent police force, investigating force like the FBI, we could then nail people. In India today, we are
Absolutely.
simply playing politics with the lives. Think about the victims of Malegaon or the victims of Mumbai. What will they be feeling today?
Absolutely, unless the lawmakers think about it, there is not going to be any relief. For example, in your criminal justice system, the three pillars are totally influenced by politics. The first is the police, second is the prosecution, and third is the prisons. In this particular case, there have been so many twists and turns, and let me tell you, in 2011 or 12, when the case was being investigated by the NIA, you had some of the most brilliant officers, I can vouch for them, called Sanjeev Kumar Singh. I can't believe that a person like Sanjeev would be doing such a shoddy investigation, or a ATS chief Hemant Karkare would be responsible for such shoddy investigation. Obviously, things have happened after 2016, and as you yourself pointed out, what Salian said. So if the investigative agencies and the prosecutions, play pines to the political leadership, whether in this one or whether it's the other one, we will have the same result again and again, whether it's Mumbai train case or whether it's the Malegaon blast case.
Should we also then, Sanjay Hegde, look at lower courts and the way they operate? Particularly, are they more susceptible, I'm making it, to political pressure? Honest answer.
No, they're not susceptible to political pressure per se, but they have the biggest burden and they can't make up for any flaws in the prosecution evidence. At least theoretically, they're not supposed to. They do their best to help the prosecution. They may be prosecution minded and say that let things get sorted out at the higher court. But I don't think that a trial court judge is any more susceptible to politics than any other judge in this country. However, this case reminds me, just 1 minute.
Yes,
This case
go
reminds
ahead.
me of that famous aphorism: much suspected of me, nothing proven can be. That was Elizabeth the Great who said it in the 1600s.
Say it again. Much suspected of me, nothing
Nothing
proven of me.
can be.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I think what this case shows is the deep flaws that exist in our criminal prosecution system and the politics that has unfortunately now polluted the way high-profile cases take place. How long are we going to carry on in this manner where even major high-profile blast cases end up saying no one is guilty? It's one thing to say, tragically, no one killed Jessica. Now we are saying no one committed bomb blast. Thank you very much to all my guests for joining me on the show today. As you can see, we've stayed away from the politicians on the show because the politicians are part of the problem, not the solution.